Hello and welcome to Stampscapes 101, or Stampscapes Live, I guess we could say. And what we're going to be doing here is testing out some of the new Nature Set number 31 imagery with some hopefully dramatic skies, nighttime skies, you know, could be sunset or twilight or something like that. But bottom line is we're going for a lot of color. And I want saturated, dramatic colors, so we're going to play around with some dye-based inks and glossy cardstock. Something that I haven't been using as much of lately, I'm talking about this last year, as I have in years past, but it's still one of the best ways to create really super saturated and really vivid final results here. Okay, so glossy cardstock and dye-based inks. You can use any type of dye-based ink that you want. I'm talking about any brand. All right, so I have some Memento here. Other Ranger, these are the old Adirondack lights here. I have some Marvy. Marvies are typically the brightest colors that you'll come across. But you can mix and match, and that's what I would encourage you all to do. And the thing that I'm also going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to utilize re-inkers, okay? So you have different bottles of re-inkers. A lot of times you buy the pad with a re-inker. These days, if it's a new color and it's one that I'm not going to be stamping imagery out in, I just buy the re-inker because if it's just something that I'm going to be coloring with, I just apply my re-inker to whatever type of tool that I'm using, and I just apply it accordingly, okay? So you can mix and match your pads and mix and match your re-inkers as well, okay? But remember, in this process right here, you can do other types of backgrounds with other types of media, but this one just happens to be the dye-based inks. Okay, so let's get to it here. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go for a... and this is about Nature Set number 31, not these backgrounds here, but we'll show you how to establish some backgrounds really fast. Okay, so I have my different, a couple different sky images here. So I have a couple lightning bolts. I think that would look really dramatic with a desert setting here. We have our Starbirth and Cloud Alto Cumulus Large. You can use anything though. All of these are really interchangeable in terms of the usage of them. Okay, it's the same technique. You just have kind of different amounts of open area to consider. Okay, I'm going to do this one at a bit of an angle just to create a little bit of extra drama here. Okay. Hello, Linda, Patty, Cynthia, good to see you all. Okay, so let's see. Filling in here. This kind of overlap your previous impressions with this image, so you don't have like a bunch of gaps in between each one. Okay. Like this. Let's mix in a little bit of the, let's see here, let me establish, I was going to do this flat. Maybe this would look kind of dramatic with a slope like this as well, like a hillside or something like this. So let me establish where this is going to go here. This is the sedge filler right there. We'll have this like largely dirt or something like this. So I'm just kind of establishing a little bit of a, it's not a horizon line, but it's a, I don't know, ledge line or something like that. Let's mix this up a little bit. Let's not have too much redundancy with that Alto Cumulus. You know, it's kind of like a mackerel sky. Hello, Sandy. Okay. Cloud right here, mopping off the edges here. You can do that with all imagery. I don't do that so much with the Alto Cumulus in terms of mopping off the edge because it's linear. It's not, or it's kind of solids. It's not really tonal, so I don't have to do that. But this one is very much a tonal design like that, so I don't want to have a real boxy impression. And if you do get a boxy impression, we're going to be using a lot of different color to blend in there anyway. So, you know, this matters, but it doesn't matter. It's not crucial or, you know, absolutely necessary. So see how that just blends in with that. I don't have this real boxy look where they've intersected like that. It would go like this. This one's coming across right here, and this image is going down here, but I don't have this boxy look in between. And like I said, you know, all the extra color that we're going to blend in with this is, it's going to eradicate a lot of that anyway, but this just gives us a little bit of head start for kind of more of a seamless, graceful look to it, and it isn't so dependent on what we do after the impressions. Okay. Hello, Susan. Hello, Debbie. All right. I was going to say I can mouse this off and get this cloud right down here, but like I said, I'm going to be using so much color in this anyways. So I'm not going to do that. Let's do this too. Let's come in here and let's bring this cloud right into this alto cumulus cloud, or alto cumulus sky pattern. All right, that looks like, you know, not what we're going after at this point in time, but we haven't used any color here. So let's go and define all this. I'm going to do my cacti after I blend in all this imagery. I'm going to do that with all of these skies here. I tell you what, let me just, let me get the foundation going with all of these backgrounds first here. That'll give this, you know, a little bit of a chance to dry before I start blending in a lot of color here too. Happy New Year. Okay, let's see. Let me go with the same color scheme. I always like this kind of brownish color scheme that I can blend in like really super warm tones into. And then even I'll see if I leave any open area in here for some slight blue tones too. But let's go about like so. Okay. Now the equivalent brown, I wouldn't call it the equivalent, but if I didn't have like a Marvy number 6 brown right here, I mean, just about every line of inks has a brown, okay? This one I'm going with is kind of a little bit of a warmer brown, but something like the Distress Ink walnut stain would look pretty good right here, and that's a pretty good color. It's a little bit lighter though, but I'd say it like a medium value, okay? Nothing too light because we're going to go with some heavy saturations of ink on here, so go a little bit medium to medium dark, somewhere in there. Hello, Bill! Free for the next 45. We'll try to crank some of this out here, some of these botanicals for you. Okay. See that right there? And then I'll have my landmass down here, okay? But I'm just going to leave that wide open like that. All right, let's see. Those were some brown tones. Let's try to go in. Let's do something with this here. This will be like one of those time-lapse electrical storm scenes, like in the desert or something like that. Let's go like that right there. I can also go like this here. Let's do this. I'll be able to fit more of the, this would be really good, like a super long slimline card too, like a real panoramic type of look. I don't know, when I think about the deserts, I'm thinking about like these long panoramic views, you know, out in the deserts, you know, most of them, you're not being blocked off by so many things like in the foreground. All right, let's go. Let's change this up. Let's go with a little bit more of a reddish tinge to this one. Not because that's how it looks or anything like that. I'm just going for kind of forced. I can't use that red. I knew it. That red of mine is like crumbling. Here, that when your Marvy pads start crumbling, don't use them for inking up your stamps anymore. I'm going to still do it here. But you can use this for adding color to your scenes, though. Okay, so this one's real reddish. This one's going to look really crazy here. But crazy can have extra drama. Boy, that pad is really crumbling. Not too bad, though. It's probably I don't know. I'm guessing it might be a 25-year-old ink pad. And I know it too because it still has those really super old gold embossed tops like this as opposed to the sticker ones, which came in, I don't know, 10 years later, something like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know why. It looks like it has like different tones on there already. This one's Crimson Lake. 45 minutes to PBS. Grew up watching PBS. We'd always watch, well, my dad would be watching everything on there, but we especially loved like Nova and Nature. Okay, so dueling strikes like that in the distance, and this will get filled in with tone. But let's fill it in with the ultimate filler image. As you can see, I'm using that in all of these with the cloud cumulus here. Okay, I'm tapping this really lightly like that just so this thing doesn't, I don't know, whatever, it's like crumbling, or it's not delaminating, but yeah, just crumbling out like that. Okay, let's see. That cloud sure looks good in red. There's this art installation out in, I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's New Mexico. I don't think it was Arizona. It could have been Arizona. But where there's these lightning rods that this artist set up. I don't know, there's like a bunch of them. And it's out somewhere, and you can reserve, this is years ago. You can reserve this little cabin there to go and watch whatever during the season lightning strikes out there. It's probably on this kind of flatter plateau where those rods are set up out there, where it's almost like, you know, they're the highest things, and then they're going to be metal, so you can go and watch those strikes out there. A friend of mine went out and did that once, and he says you get a ride over to the location. There's this little lodge of some sort. I think he was the only one there, and there's like a refrigerator there, and he says there's like enchiladas in the refrigerator for you to eat. Okay, so we have these foundations right here, so let's get coloring these really quickly here. And I'm just going to go in with, okay, I'm going to start off with some pale orange. Here's Peach Bellini as a foundation. I have these colors right here that I can work through, not the blue. I'll do another one maybe with the blue here, but I want to do these warm toned sky backgrounds here, just to see what they would look like. Okay, so let's start off with pale orange. Peach Bellini is going to be a little bit lighter. Maybe you'll go with this one. Okay, let me get a pretty decent amount because I have a lot of coverage here. And we're starting very lightly. And start as light as you can if you have the colors, okay? Pinks would be good on all these. Yellow, pale orange, like a distress ink, antique linen or anything like that would be cool. Hello, Maureen. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so with narrow types of light sources, like these lightning bolts, what I want to do is I want to avoid coloring those out, okay? Because if I do, they're going to be darker, okay? Now, a lot of times people think, okay, let me see, the bolts, I'm going to make them yellow or something like that, which you could do. But if you make these lightning bolts a certain tone or bring a temperature into it, what you have to do is you have to make the area around it darker than that by a pretty decent amount if you want that to read as your light source, okay? Now these clouds right here, I'm going to have those reflecting the light of that, so I need to be careful that I don't tone them all out, okay? So you can kind of establish your lighting scheme with this first color that you're applying here. Okay, now I have to kind of think about, is this all going to be the land right down here, or do I want it a little bit lower? I don't know. I can still figure that out later. I can still add on more sky imagery if I want to, okay? So we're going in here, and see this right here? I'm kind of establishing that as my light source by making the area around it darker. But if I want this white light to be reflecting off of some of these, in this case, clouds around it or on this land, just don't tone it all out with that, okay? And then that will represent our light source. And that same color will represent the reflected light of those light sources, okay? So that makes sense. We have like a blue spotlight or something like that showing on the stage. That lit area is going to be blue, like, you know, if we're doing a stage production of something, okay? So that's why most of the times I like to kind of retain some area of white within my scenes. And that's just to go for like maximum contrast. Sometimes, you know, if a scene gets really dark, I like that too, because if it's like a more diffused lighting, if it's not quite so bright, you know, that can have its own type of mood to it, which is really cool. I probably don't do that enough, but there's usually like a sliver of white somewhere. And then again, because if I want to add in some little touches with white pigment ink later on, I need to retain that white in there, either in the light source, you know, be it within the scene or off the scene, or the reflected light somewhere down below. You don't necessarily have to have the light source within a scene, you know. It could be off, you know, page or something like that, but you have that still that kind of spotlit area like that. Okay, let's do that right here. Okay, now this one right here, there's no like specific moon or sun or lightning bolts that would signify a light source, okay? So you just make it up, okay? So in here somewhere, you just want to retain some lighter area, okay? Hello, Candy. All right, let's see. So on here, I like to go with this streaky kind of motion in the direction of that alto cumulus sky. I mean, it's, you know, there's a real definitive kind of pattern to it or direction to it. So I'm just kind of streaking those in like that. And we'll retain some of that kind of streakiness within the cloud forms in here. Okay. Let's see down here. And this is the This is the part where I'm never really quite sure what I should do. Sometimes I want to go with the background a little bit darker and the foreground a little bit lighter, like this. This is supposed to be a ridge right here, okay? Or it's going to be a ridge when I'm done. Or sometimes I want to go darker here and lighter in the background. I think because I have these clouds right here and they're fairly dark, I'll make this ridge a little bit, you know, illuminated to contrast against this darker ridge right there. I won't go too dark, you know, because I want to have those, you know, the cacti, you know, be able to be seen. If I go too dark right back here and I put a cactus right here against it, it's, you know, it's not going to show up too much. Okay, so here's a little bit of this light right in here, and we have it right up there, and we have it up here in the sky, so it goes dark, light, darker, lighter, darker, lighter, darker, lighter, you know, like that. So you just kind of oscillate your light and shade. It's like checkerboarding, as I've said. I got that from one of my instructors in school. Okay, so we've gone like this. Now this one has these stars, and we're retaining the lightness of those stars. Some, you know, some of it's just too bright, so maybe on the edge, I'll knock one out a little bit. You know, it's just so it's not so stark white and redundant here. So you can get, you know, I mean, you can get some color in there, just like if you had a moon or a sun. It doesn't have to be like stark white. All right, and that is that for the base coat like that. Okay, so let's just keep moving on here. Let's move on through my next darker tone. That was the Peach Bellini. Let's try, I don't know if this pale orange is going to be that much darker. Let's try it here. It might even be lighter, but maybe it'll be brighter or warmer or something like that. So let's try it here. I'm just going to use this, if I can, through the entire process. Now remember, this is going to have a lot of the Peach Bellini in there, so it's kind of a mixture of the two of them. It's a little bit warmer, just slightly, but again, it's a real, it's kind of adding moisture to the scene, even if you can't see a real definitive difference. Okay, because I want to be, when I get to my darker tones, I want to be working on a fairly damp surface. Not soaking wet or anything like that where I can't apply anything because it's too wet, but just damp enough where it's easy to blend in the darker tones. Okay, let's see. I thought I grabbed a... oh, yeah, here it is. Rosemary, okay? I have a customer named Rosemary. It'd be funny if they were watching. This color's for you, Rose. Okay, so remember, it's a little bit of a combination. You can see that little tinge of, you know, that reddish tinge right there. Now, when you start moving through these other colors, you know, it's easy to kind of lose your light source. So kind of remember to maintain it. It's easy to kind of work around things when it's the first color, but when we start moving like this and we start moving faster and faster, that's when you know, that's when people lose their things. And I do too. It's like, oh, I lost my, you know, that little reflected, you know, warm area or light area sometime. So it happens to me too. But if I make an area, it's like, oh, I lost that little bit of light, then I'll just put a little area darker next to it, which by contrast will make it seem a little lighter. You can't, you know, I'm not going to retain, I mean, I'm not going to reclaim white, but I can make something look lighter by contrast. All right, so see that little tinge? Here's the difference between that rosemary. So see, it's just a little bit different, okay? Now these are real subtle types of changes here. We'll get into something a little bit more dramatic here probably after this color, I'll go in with like yellow or something a lot brighter. But again, this is really establishing kind of a nice foundation here. Which I haven't been doing, you know, a whole lot of lately on the, you know, the metallics and the pre-printed papers and all that. You've been going with kind of established backgrounds. I haven't been doing too many backgrounds, but these ones can be pretty dramatic, you know, when you just start off from scratch and you can kind of do anything you want and, you know, direct your background however you want it to be. Hello, Jen. Working on some skies here. Some quick, relatively quick backgrounds. Okay, let's go with... I wonder if I have a yellow re-inker here. Okay, I got it here. So I have a brilliant yellow and an orange here. I thought about just using this pad right here, but I'd have to take this and dip it into my yellow. Okay, so, which I could do, but I prefer not to. Okay, so here's brilliant yellow. It's a little bit of an orangish yellow. I'd prefer to go with more of that more canary, you know, kind of yellow, but this one will do. Okay, so this one's going to be, you know, a pretty big change right here. Okay. I mean, we wouldn't think about brilliant yellow as being pretty, you know, dark. And it's not dark, but it's a huge intensity change from that previous color. You know, these ones down here, which are, you know, for most part, like really dull looking. So anytime you make a big change like that, kind of apply with I don't know, not precaution, but, you know, just adjust your rate of application, I should say. I'm kind of using a little bit of a softer kind of touch. I'm just touching it to the paper and kind of whirling it around a little bit. But this is where the vibrancy is going to come from. It's going to be from this color right here. For the most part, it'll be the brightest color. Brightest and lightest, too. Now this is one where I might get some of this yellow into some of these stars right here. Okay, I'm doing this thing where I'm also vignetting kind of this area down here, like that, to kind of focus some of that lighting down in here. Okay, I might need to re-ink this now. This one's getting pretty dry on here. Let me see. Okay, see how that's kind of directing my lighting a little bit more? Or defining, not directing, but kind of defining it a little bit more. Let's see, I'm gonna see if I can just get away with just that one inking of that brilliant yellow here for all three scenes. You can see how deeply saturated it is here. Let's go with some let's go with one more inking of that brilliant yellow. I'm gonna put so much this time. I'll just put like a little drop there. But you can see how fast the use of the re-inkers it can really expedite the process. When I put those few drops of ink on here, it's probably the equivalent of inking something up on a pad, like, I don't know, 10 times, I'm guessing, maybe. You might have more control over it, though, if you haven't done this before, just to have less ink on here, and you can kind of get this level of saturation, you know, more kind of methodically. But I don't know. On these first, I mean, I'm still working really light here. I still have to work through like orange and red and maybe some pinks or something like that in here. Maybe you can go kind of more slower and methodical when you get into your darker tones, you know. But I'd suggest trying the re-inkers if you have them. Okay. Yeah. Jeannie uses. Of course, Jeannie uses a. She uses the clouds a lot, and she uses. Well, of course, if everyone knows Jeannie, she uses all the stamps like in so many different ways. So you'll see those clouds in like this turbulent, you know, sky or something like that. And it might be like a texture that's really kind of, if you know what the cloud looks like, you know what it is, but it might be like just amongst a bunch of different kind of movement or something like that. It's really cool. For me, it's kind of fun. It's like a, what stamp is that type of puzzle. Or what part of stamp, you know, what part of the stamp was used in, you know, whatever the foreground or bottom location or something like that, okay? Okay, so we're building up our value and intensity here. See this in this little streaky area? I'll just do like this streak like that. And then I'll just kind of leave some of that area just blank like that. This is just a paper towel, if anyone wants to know. Or if you just joined in. It's like a rag. You can use a rag. What is it? Linda mentioned a chamois. That would be really fantastic. A chamois, which is probably really good. I said it reminded me because this almost looks like a chamois right here. All right. So I have that one right there. Look at that rich kind of glow working from that. And we're just, you know, we're like in the mid-tones right here. Or the mid values. We'll get into our darker values here. We're almost there. So one of the things I mentioned is if it's a new color for me, like most of my dye-based inks, there might be like some colors that'll come out where I'll think, oh, that's a really nice like color that's different enough from something that I already have. And if it's, you know, kind of a mid-tone to darker tone, And if it's different enough from a pad that I already have, then I might get the pad. But if it's just the color that I want, because I can envision incorporating it in with my other color schemes, yeah, I'll just get the re-inker for it. Okay, this one was looking a little anemic, so I'm putting a pretty decent saturation like that. Sometimes kind of dragging this in like this too. It's like we're kind of dragging off some of the ink because it starts to get, the pulp starts to get a little bit saturated. So instead of like dragging it like this where you're making contact, and just dab it like this and build up those little beads of ink on the surface. Okay. All right. So let's look at this here. And also too, you can kind of watch for it too. If it starts drying, and if it starts like drying a little bit dull looking, then just add more, okay? So I'm gonna add a bunch of stuff down here too, a lot of textures and things like that, so. All right, that was the orange. Let's go to brown, and this is the brown that I stamped out this imagery in. So when I start to apply it in here though, it's not going to look that brown because this page is kind of getting, the surface and pulp is getting a little bit saturated with ink. And, you know, it's not going to have that same staining application rate as if we were applying it to a dry piece of paper. Blue shop towels. Yeah, those are pretty good. They come in a big pack usually too, don't they, Linda? Those clads are used, yeah. Okay, so here's brown, okay. So I like using brown, like I said, and again, like any of those distress ink ones would be good, or a couple of them would be good, because sometimes my color schemes get a little bit too white, like way too hot and electric looking, okay? I like the vibrancy, but I usually don't like something that's just, I don't know, like way too fluorescent or day glow colors. I'm thinking about specifically like green grasses or something like that. I want like a rich glowing, you know, warm grassy area or something like that. Or in sunsets, you know, like those deep vibrant tones. But I want it a little bit more earthy too, so I'll blend in brown into those color schemes, okay? So I almost always do that. I don't just leave it like a transition like like this. I find it too, I don't know, it's a little bit too harsh on my eyes. So that's where just throwing a brown right over the top of it works, or you can incorporate it in with, you know, the other colors that you did. But you get the vibrancy of, you know, the saturation of all the colors, but it's just not so like screamingly intense. Okay, and here's this one. So I'll see where I put in that streak of orange right there. It's like a shard of it from right there. I'll try to add some of this kind of in that same area. But again, I want this kind of to remain here. So these areas right here. So it's like applying it here, here, and here without filling in these two areas, okay? So I just kind of stay with the same movement or application, whatever direction. I was going to say this brown's working pretty good. I forgot I just re-inked it. I re-inked a lot of my pads before I came on here, just because I knew I'd be using a lot of saturated tone. All right. And here we go here. All right, let's take a look at these. I think this one right here. I should stamp out my imagery in here just so I can see where everything's going to go, but I think it's safe to say that this base area down here needs to get a little bit darker just to, because this top half is so top heavy with the imagery. So you can just kind of anchor it down with more tone. Okay, so see, it's all, you know, really vibrant and saturated up there. So all you do is just bottom left and right corner, make those kind of darker like that, but not just like dark, like black like this and then white. You want to have it transition right here, okay? So try to have those lighter, medium, darker tones, and then this will be like black down here in the end. Okay. All right, so that was just brown. All right. And here's my dark brown. Okay, now this is where we'll really be able to see a lot more changes taking place. When you go darker than, or as dark or darker than the imagery that was stamped in there, okay? So this is usually when I'm kind of a little bit more controlled about the placement of, or the, whatever, the transference of tone here. Because it's just going to show up faster, okay? It just depends. Sometimes your pages are just so saturated. There's a lot of ink up here right now. But see, yeah, see that right there? It's really, really dark applied over the top of it, okay? So what you might want to do is blot this off a little bit so that you're applying a smaller amount of it, okay? Just to get a feel of it too, okay? Lighter touch. And see, this is where, see, if I do a really bad application of something like that, which I would never do like that, where it's like that. If that is kind of dry up there, it doesn't spread out like this, okay? So if it looks easy for me to do, that's what everyone always says, Kevin, you make it look so easy. I do processes that make it easier for me to do that type of thing. I can blend in like that because I took the extra time to add in those base layers of color that have already kind of saturated the page. So it's not like applying this dark brown on top of a piece of bare paper where it's not going to move around like that. So right here, see that right there? And I can just totally spread this out with like no problem. Now sometimes it gets a little dry in here, so I'll go back and I'll add in another, I'll go back to whatever color, the peach Bellini or something like that. I'll just kind of moisten the paper again, or you can use any of the lighter tones that you already used on there just to moisten the paper a little bit more for these darker tones, okay? And a lot of times, when people get to the darker tones, a lot of times people are re-inking their black pads all the time. So maybe those black pads are like super, super juicy, but they don't use, whatever, orange or something like that very often. So it's a little bit drier. So it's kind of like a really thick application of your darkest tones. So, just be aware of that. Look how beautiful and rich that brown is there now. Gila R, good to see ya. Thanks for joining in. All right. This one, I want to add in a little bit of more pink or something to it, I think. It's looking a little bit anemic to me. Or I'll have more yellow go into here. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it looks okay. It looks better on my computer screen than it does live. I don't have some kind of setting that says like saturate this even more. Maybe I'm looking at it at an angle though, where this is like completely just straight on overhead. Okay. Like the paper sample I sent. Oh yeah, Bill sent over some paper samples. those samples are pretty cool, but they're not geared too well for scenic stamping, because if you stamp over the top of them, like a lot of them are like completely black in areas, so you're not going to be able to see imagery in like a whole big field of like the darkest value. And then the brighter ones are the brighter areas are like they're so textural and floral with the same kind of contrast. It's like someone was having like fun with that technique right there, with whatever type of medium there you were using. So I'll think of something though. They'd make really great kind of like things to mount pieces on though, I think. All right, so this is where this really starts coming together too, right here. All right. Because my kind of like light and dark is like defined a huge amount with this. Okay. So I'm trying to go for this little feathery type of application right here. Now's not the time where you want to go like, like this, and, to get that thing like that. So you want to just kind of like this. See, I'm using your natural hand motion like that. And if I want to get something darker, I'm just going for repetition. So I'm getting that dark to light transition like that. And that's kind of all I'm doing, like this whole kind of process right here with all the colors. Maybe with the lighter colors, imagine this was like yellow or something like that, I might be going in longer like this, okay? But then when you get into your darker tones, maybe you're doing like this shorter application of it, so you retain this transition area like that, okay? Okay, one of the things is too, when this is really wet here, sometimes it's hard to apply some of these darker colors because the page is so saturated with tone that you're applying kind of wet into wet, so it's not staining the surface and thus making it darker. So see, as I'm doing this, and I'll let that sit for a little bit. Now see, this is the brown that I already used here, but see how much darker it can get, like compared to that. Okay, now this is like, I was swiping it here, but see this right here, but see how much darker it is. So just let it sit, for like a minute or two or something like that. And dye-based inks, they're going to be evaporating and absorbing too. Different types of inks. The Marvy inks are a little bit easier because they're thinner. So with just about any of the other types of inks, just let it sit for a little bit longer. I don't like heat setting though, but you can, if it's just, you're not getting any kind of application, because if the ink is like twice as thick, it might take twice as long to kind of start setting up and drying. So, just keep that in mind. Don't get frustrated and, oh my God, this, just can't work or something like that. Just let it sit, for not too long. Don't let it sit like a half an hour, because then you might have to reapply a bunch of, the lighter tones in there again to get it to flow. So you want it just kind of the right consistency. And there's a wide, tolerance. It's not like, okay, the right consistency was between like 30 and 45 seconds or something like that. It's not like that. You just don't want it to dry out too much, and you don't want to have it like super, super wet. As far as the ease of application, okay? But see how much darker that one got right there? Let's see this right down here. Another good technique for using on something like this is to build up a little bit of a puddle like that, okay? And then what you do is you drag that in like that for a nice smooth type of application, okay? So you tap a little bit to get a decent amount of that ink right in that corner, and then just kind of blend it around a little bit or streak it in there like that, okay? All right, I think, yeah, here. See, I want to give myself a pretty decent value in terms of darkness in the background before I go to black, because black is going to be like a huge, jump in value, even though this brown is pretty dark here. Hello, Jeannie. Bonnie, thanks for that order. Yeah, I got that out today. I think you should have got your tracking information. So everyone's orders are out. Thanks so much. I can't wait to see what all of you do with these new stamps too. Here's pale violet. I'm gonna use some of this pale violet. Okay, I'm not gonna use the pale violet on this. Okay, so let's grab another paper towel here. All right, so let's see here. Okay, now when I apply pale violet, I don't expect it to look this color right here, okay? But let's see if we can get like a little bit of a different kind of tonal transition here, or hue transition. Yeah, look at that, right? Can you tell the difference between that and then? Is it showing up on camera? It's just a slight different tinge, I think it makes it a little bit more, a little bit of a richer surface. Remember, applying pale violet over the top of a dark brown or something like that. It's not like pale violet is going to show up over the dark brown. If I put this up here, there's not going to be any change at all, because it's, these are transparent colors that we're working with. So just keep that in mind. Okay, see that like that? That little tinge like that. Okay, here's the pale violet. Let's see if we can get some of this in here as well. Here, I'll put it right there. I'll try to make it a little bit more extreme here. You see that right there? So it's not so, this whole area, I mean, it looked fine before, but it's not so redundant with that little bit of purplish tinge right there. And I can add some of this into the cloud if I want to as well. Or up here. It just kind of changes the hue a little bit. And like I said, it looked fine before, but I'm looking at these three pieces and, they're really similar. So I just like to change things up a little bit, or tweak it, just slightly, maybe. Let's try a little bit of this rosemary again. Rosemary is a really, it's one of the more pale, marvy colors out there. Okay, so I'll go like this, get a little bit like that. Okay. Just a little tinge. I don't know if you can tell that right in there. Candy, you're talking about for glossy cardstock specifically? Or just paper in general? Or white cardstock? All right. That is pretty intense. All right. I don't know if I have an 8 violet here. But while we're at it, I'm not doing these color schemes that often. Oh, there's my violet. I think my violet has completely crumbled. We'll see if it's usable. All right, these are colors that I don't use very often because I'm not usually doing these color schemes too often. I'll probably be doing more now, but let me see. Is this one? That's plum. Yeah, here, magenta. I love the color magenta, but I hardly use it in scenic stamping. Let's go for it here. Okay. Magenta is like super, super bright in these. I have to be careful, almost like even more so than using black with magenta. And it stains too. I have a feeling that there's a different chemistry to it. Because it really penetrates and stains even over the top of all these other saturated tones that are already in there. See that right there? Look how intense that is. So this is adding a lighter color over the top of a darker one, okay? It just comes to show you, you can play around with that. You can still switch up if you decide, oh, I should use more yellow. And if you think that'll kind of brighten up that area and make it glow more, then just apply it right over the top of your other tones, okay? Because like I said, I work from light to dark, but it doesn't mean you can't go back in and increase whatever the color glow with top layers of those colors that you might have already used, but maybe using more of it will saturate it even more so. Okay, let's see. I see your skies in stamps. Kevin is using. Oh. Yeah, we were just talking about you, Jeannie. But Candy, now you see, did you mention that with the paper? Okay, so Candy, if you're talking about glossy cardstock, the one that I would use that I've been recommending these days is Chrome Coat. It's not the Chrome Coat of old, but it's the one that I know. I have some old King James that this is, but I did this one video where I tested out like 3 different versions of glossy cardstock from Kelly Paper. I was just in there talking with the guy, and I don't know, I got some samples of the ones that they had off the rack, and it was the one that worked the best. It reminded me of the Chrome Coat of old. Chrome Coat from 30 years ago changed formulas, I think, and then it changed hands, or it didn't change hands, but the CTI changed their name of their Bind-A-Coat. glossy cardstock to chrome coat. It's still bind to coat though. It didn't, nothing changed with that. But the name recognition of chrome coat was strong in probably the North America. I'm guessing it was for Canada and the U.S. So that bind to coat works pretty good. Some glossy cardstocks with the inks that we're using in crafting, it kind of dries funny. It goes on, but then it kind of starts to separate a little bit. And you can see this kind of textural pattern in there. A textured pattern. And that was, I forgot the brand of that other one that I don't recommend for that reason. Although that texture was kind of cool, but I would think, people wouldn't want it just inherently in their paper unless they wanted to go for some kind of, specific look to their applications right here. Like I'd be able to see like some texture in there if it was this other brand. And then there was a third brand. I can't remember what paper that was either. It was some kind of name, like, I don't know, it was like Fuji or something. I don't know. It was a brand that I'd heard of, from other things, but they also made a paper. I can't remember what it was. Okay, so this is violet right here. This one is all completely collapsed right here. It's like the pad, I don't know if you can tell, but it's completely flat. And here it's sloped like this going down. So I just, using it like this, it's fine. You just can't stamp something out with that color anymore. Although I'm usually not going for like violet impressions or something like that. I guess you could. It'd be interesting for some purple skies or something like that, maybe. Okay, black, and then we'll finally get to the... I've used way more colors on here than I thought. I was just going to go for like 2 or 3 colors up in my skies, but I thought, these look really nice and vivid, and this is kind of the look that I was going for typically when I was doing multi-tone backgrounds like this, all the time with glossy cardstock and dye-based inks, so... Might as well. Okay, but this is the black that I'm using here now. See that right there? Look how intense that is. And this black really blends in really easy for me because this paper now is fairly saturated and moist. It's not more moist than it was 10 minutes ago because this continues to dry and evaporate as I'm doing this here. But it's kind of maintaining, a certain consistency that makes this really easy to do. And you can see I'm able to get pretty dark here on the corners for that nice little vignette. See, so I don't want to get a big block of just like black right here, okay? Now, see, that's a lot of times when I taught people this and when they're learning it, okay, if there's something that people will do sometimes is when they get to the black, it's darker to begin with. So as they're kind of dragging this in, with a lighter color, by the time they drag it 2 inches or something like that, it's already transitioned to a lighter color because they're starting with a lighter color to begin with. But this, it's darker to begin with. And also the paper is moist. So it's not applying as fast, okay, because it's saturated. So sometimes they get this, instead of having this transition from darker to lighter like that, it's just like black right here. It's like a solid 100% or 95% black, and then it's light like that, okay? So that being said, you just kind of stay in the outside edges longer, okay, like this. Or if you're streaking it like this, you just kind of stay out here a little bit longer before you start taking it in so that you're transitioning with like that super dry black like that. And that's why you'll maintain that, that range, that transitioning range like that. Okay. So what I'm talking about is, in other words, don't do, you know, like, here, let me put this right here. Okay, so how it's transitioning like that. Don't do like this, okay? Where it's just like a really harsh black, you know, or dark like that. And it just ends like next to something really light like that. You know, unless it's, you know, purposeful for, you know, you're using it as a shadow or something like that for an object in the scene. But if it's just as background like that, I find it's just easier to blend things in with that kind of transitioning tone from the outside to inside like that. Outside, inside, dark to light, dark to light, dark to light, okay? All right, I think we're ready for our imagery. All right, Kevin, please do not wreck the backgrounds now. All right, let's see here. All right, so this is supposed to represent the slope. Although it could be anything. I could put things upright like this, and this whole thing could be sky down here still. But let's make it like a slope. I've climbed up like a lot of desert peaks in my day. And let's see here. Okay, so I can't even see my brown impressions of that anymore. You can see it a little bit, but the area in the background got darker than what I stamped this out in. But that served a purpose, though. It served as like a, you know, a kind of a marker for where to add in my tones in here. So I can just stamp it in a darker version again, right over the top. And let's try the dark brown here with this one. Okay, we'll go like that right there. It doesn't stand out like super strong, but I don't think I need to because I already have that streak in the background to kind of separate foreground from, in this case, sky. Okay. And let's do that here too. I'm going to blot that off a little bit. Well, or do I need to? Yeah. Okay. A little bit more foundation right there. Another stamp that would be really good for this is the sand texture, or the snow texture. Snow and sand, you know, it doesn't matter. You stamp it out in blue for a winter scene, it looks like snow. You've stamped it out in brown, it looks like sand or something like that. Okay, I'm just kind of filling this in here, just to get a little of that imagery in here. I don't need to fill up the whole thing, because I'm going to use rocks or something like that in there too. By the way, so if I'm using all like Memento inks or something like that, of really thick ink, you might allow these to sit for a little bit before you stamp out your imagery over the top of them. Because with really thick ink, sometimes you stamp out your imagery, your silhouettes or whatever, in black ink. And if it's sitting there, it looks really good when it's the impressions have been made. But then you look at the next day and it's like everything kind of blurred a little bit because the ink ran into the damp background, okay? I shouldn't have to worry about that. Or you can stamp out your own imagery and stays on or something like that, like another type of ink that's not going to merge with the foundation water-based inks. I wouldn't do that though, but you can just let it set up, you know, like for a half an hour or something like that and come back to it. All right, let's see. I was going to stamp out my trees. I should, with these ones right here, I should probably stamp out my rocks first, if I'm going to have some in there. Bill was telling me that he made it out to the desert, but it wasn't during the springtime. You need to get out to the deserts, Bill, sometime. Anyone here live in the desert areas? What month is the cacti blooming? Not the annuals, but the cacti. Maybe for me it was in like Joshua Tree up at 4,000 feet. It's May. I don't know if they're going in late April. I think it was like mid-May. It might be different yearly depending on what's happened that year in terms of temperatures and everything like that, but it was pretty safe to say that. And then there's a longer blooming period. Sometimes with those annuals that come up, like they might not bloom like every year, but when there's an abundance of rain or something like that. Some of those flowers, like they're up like for like a week, and then like caterpillars eat them all. Everything in the deserts works so fast. But the cacti seem to have a pretty decent period there. All right, I'm gonna put some more right here. But I love cacti blooms. There's some of the brightest colors out there. It's like I don't like this magenta here is like really bright, but those I don't know. It's almost like a metallic magenta. Or, there's colors out there. They're really really spectacular. Super bright yellows. Okay, go like that. Oh, let's use this one. Let's do this one while we still have it out. You like that style, Linda? We're pulling out that glossy cardstock again here, huh? So if you don't have the glossy cardstock, you can use other types of cardstocks too. The more coated something is, the less it's going to be absorbing into the paper. So the more surface retention of a staining style of ink, transparent ink, just potentially it can get brighter, results. But if you get like a semi-gloss, papers are the next type probably in terms of saturation and surface retention. And those ones are good too. I like, there's so many different brands of semi-gloss that I've tried. And for me, the semi-glosses are really consistent in terms of, going from brand to brand in terms of how they work. I can say that, if you did a blindfold test of glossy cardstocks for me, semi-gloss cardstocks for me, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But with the glossy papers, you can work with all of them. Some of them are a little bit too sealed off, though. With the glossy ones, it's a matter of how kind of glossy they are. Now, the more glossy they are isn't necessarily better with dye-based inks, crafting inks, because they might be so sealed off that it's hard to apply multiple layers like this because it starts to get just puddled up on the surface too fast. So you might just, you know, if you're doing that, you might have to wait a little bit longer for it to dry. Okay, this is the smaller rocks if I didn't mention that. But places like Kelly Paper still have chrome coat. I don't know if they're able to get all the papers that you know they used to with the pulp shortages and things like that. Okay, see that's right here. Setting kind of a foundation for our flora to be applied in here. And let's see here. Okay. Oh, okay. So here I'm getting to a point here, getting close to a point where I was kind of in my head when I was thinking about doing this video. I was wondering if I want to do some splatter painted stars up in the sky. I mean, I could just do them with a pen too, but that splatter painted look really gives a really good texture. And I was wondering, do I do the cacti before I splatter paint? Because then, you know, some dots are going to get on the cacti. I don't want to look like it's, you know, snowing out there. Or do I do the background first? But then when I stamp the cacti over that, sometimes, you know, you're stamping over these little raised little dots of white paint on there. So I'm thinking now, I think I want to do the background splatter painting first, I think. And then, I don't know, and then if I get some areas that are a little bit raised, I'll just fill them in with a pen, you know, after I stamp my cacti on here. All right, so Dr. Martens. I got a new bottle of Dr. Martens, Jeannie. In one of those previous videos, I was like scrounging like the last couple drops, you know, of paint down at the base. It feels weird to me to have a bottle of Dr. Martens where the whole thing is in solution, because I'm always adding a few drops of water and just kind of mixing up a little bit on the top. You know, because those bottles that I was using were, I don't know, they might have been 20 years old or something like that. Okay, so this is Dr. Martens Bleed Proof White. It's a really super, super white, opaque watercolor paint, okay? I'm just getting a little bit on the tip of my toothbrush here. Can you see that right there? And then I'm squeezing out almost as much as I can back into the bottle, okay? And then when I do this, I'm not going like zip like that, okay? I'm just kind of releasing a couple hairs at any given time, okay? So this whole area up here is supposed to be sky. And there's some clouds up there too, but this is just kind of a nice little textural addition. And see, I'm just kind of releasing, watch my thumb here. Try to go up a little bit higher. And then see, I can kind of direct it a little bit where I want it to go. I'm not getting too much variation here. I'll add in some other little dots, but see that little textural addition like that? I got some of that over my rocks, and I'll just kind of wipe that off. About 50% of the time, I kind of go overboard with this. But that's not a bad thing. You should go overboard with all your applications of media about 50% of the time. Because that's what a kid would do. They'd kind of go, you know, they go crazy. And I think that's all kind of in the spirit of fun. So you see those stars up there in those darker areas like that. But then there's some in here too, you know. It's a good textural kind of contrast, and it kind of it wakes up kind of, these open areas like this. Now, in like a lightning bolt thing, I don't know. It's just kind of another textural thing. I'll kind of splatter paint a little bit of it around in here, maybe. Maybe this is like in a flash of lightning or something like that. Maybe it's there's sediment in the air or something like that that's kind of illuminating, which just kind of makes for, it puts a little bit more kind of motion into the visual. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you can see that like that. Okay. All right. And while I was doing that, this is kind of, allowing this to dry a little bit longer or set up a little bit more. If someone asks me anything, let's see. Yeah, Hamilco semi-gloss on Amazon. The Hamilco gloss, though, on Amazon, to me, it is the equivalent of a semi-gloss cardstock. So the semi-gloss cardstock, and Nancy Stamps, the Nancy Stamps channel, she sent me over like a sample of that Hamilco, because I noticed she had a review of it. So I said, hey, Nancy, how is that? I know she left a positive review, but I just wanted to confirm. So I dropped her a note, and then she goes, she sent me out a sample of the glossy and semi-gloss, and even in my hand, and I've been using glossy cardstock for like 35 years. I could not tell the difference between their glossy and semi-gloss, so just keep that in mind. I don't know how that could be. It almost seemed like a mistake to me. How those could possibly be a semi-gloss and one a glossy when it looked so similar in hand too. And I know what glossy cardstocks look like, but I don't know. There might have been a slight, ever so slight difference, but I don't know. It was kind of bizarre, but they work good though. Okay, which is really good to see. But it wasn't glossy like this though. Okay. That being said, there's certain things you can do on a semi-gloss that you can't do on a glossy. And then, if you do want it glossy, you can always hit like when you're done, maybe you can use, these types of inks on here on a semi-gloss. If you want to add in some colored pencil shadows on a semi-gloss, you can do that. You can't really do that on a glossy cardstock, because colored pencils don't stick to it. But what I'm getting at is if you want to have a super glossy finish to it, then you can hit a semi-gloss paper with like a Krylon triple thick or something like that, and acrylic spray, and then just make it glossier looking. If you want that real super glossy postcard-ish look. Okay, I really need to clean off my tack and peel here because it's almost black. I almost can't see through my blocks anymore. And I am just touching my bare tack and peel right here. Oh, by the way, I saw Laura here. Did I say hi? Laura lives out in the desert, so April and early May here. Laura, what elevation are you at? So like here in like the high deserts out here, like in Joshua Tree, I think that they call it the Pinto Basin. That's where everyone goes to see like wildflowers out here, like the annuals. And those ones are going off in like February, March, I think. It depends when the rains are, if we get rains. But then I think that's at 2,000 feet or something like that. But then a lot of the cacti start up at like, I don't know, it's like 3,000, and then the main park is mostly up at around 4,000, where all the Joshua trees are. Okay, so these are the Joshua trees right here that I'm stamping in here, by the way. Yeah, I noticed. Yeah, I noticed that one of those previous videos. You did notice that, Jeannie. You pointed that out. It's like, okay, I'm gonna get that. I need to finally get around to ordering a bottle. Okay, now these ones are, I'm gonna put these Joshua trees up here vertical, okay? They're not gonna go like this, because this represents like a desert slope or something like this. And I want that to not contrast against it, but, you know, kind of have these angles play against one another right in here. So let's see. Let's go with this larger one right here. I want to get an art foamy version of a Joshua tree, so it's nice and big. And that's what I'm going to suggest. Or I don't know, one of these other ones, saguaro or something like that. The Joshua tree, though, they make for some pretty good silhouettes. Okay. Okay, so hold down a little bit longer because, you know, the paper that we're stamping on, like I said, it's, you know, it's not like super damp or anything like that, but it's a little bit wet. Or a little bit damp, probably. I've seen, one of my things that I always wanted to see was I wanted to see snow in Joshua Tree National Park because I've seen it in photos before, but I hadn't been out there. But I finally got to see it snow out there one time when I went out there, and it was so bizarre because it was snowing pretty heavy when I first got there, and there was snow over everything. And then we were in the park for a few hours, and by the time we were driving out, there wasn't one trace of snow left. Hardly. There was, I don't know, there might have been a couple little shadowy areas, you know, like in between some boulders where it's like, okay, but it was like almost all remnants of that snowfall from just a couple hours earlier was like completely gone. Let's see. Bill was in Phoenix, Sedona. I always wanted to go to Sedona. I didn't make it out there. When I was doing like a ton of hiking. Glad you like it, Candy. Can't wait to see what you do with yours. Okay, so here's the smaller one. Let's play a little bit of a scale against one another here. I don't need to hold this one down too much long, you know, because this is kind of in this drier, lighter area. Like that. Okay. I'll go with another one out here. Let's see. Yeah, here, I'll make this one more of the... I'll use both, or I'll use all of them. Different types of cacti in the same terrain here, but as we would see out in nature, but this one's like not going to fit as much as the other ones, so... I've been so bummed, I don't know. I don't hang on to it, but like one of my favorite places to go and camping and hiking is this place called the Mojave National Preserve. It's not really a national park. It's like people live out there, and I guess the thing that one of the things that differentiates a national preserve and a national park is that people can still hunt out there in designated areas. So, but this Mojave National Preserve was where I used to go camping all the time and hiking around, and back when I was doing a ton of that, like, I don't know, 20 years ago. And this one really cool area was called Sema Dome that had this Joshua Tree forest on it. But there's been different areas of that national preserve that have caught fire since 20 years ago. I haven't returned there, but there was this fire on Sema Dome where it just like wiped out, you know, a lot of that Joshua Tree forest that was just in that one area within the park, or for the most part, but just gone. There's so many areas that I used to go to that have, that have had fires over since I used to go to them. So there's like massive, kind of devastation in some of these areas. So I was telling my friends that I used to go to these places with, maybe we shouldn't go back out there because it'd be just, it'd bum us out knowing what we know, or remembering what we remember from all these places. Okay, this is an Oregon pipe cacti. Let me see here. I kind of want to leave this open area right here. Let me put it right here. Okay. Building it up like that. Let's go with the big one here. Anything worth doing is worth doing to excess. Yeah, go crazy. Go crazy with your pieces. Go overboard. Put on too much color. Splatter paint. Crazy. Yeah. At least with some as like a creative exercise, I would say. I say that, I used to say that when people were in my classes, a lot of times people would be saying, I wonder if I should add this on or something like that. Oh, hello, Darlene. If I didn't say hi, if anyone else said hi when I wasn't looking, hello to you, and hello to everyone watching too, that is checking it out in the background there. Great to have everyone on. Okay, so I have that cacti down there like that. I'm trying to create this kind of transitioning thing. I usually like to have things kind of go back, like this, like I create like a visual path into the distance. Okay. Yeah, but what I was saying is in my workshop, sometimes people would be thinking, should I add this one extra color or something like that? Or I don't know if I should do this, or I always say just do it, Or sometimes people tell me after I see them like in the future class, they'll say, they've been applying the different techniques and things like that. But oftentimes they say, I don't know where to stop. Okay. I don't know when something's done. Okay. And usually, I just say, if something seems like you should, add, keep adding. I usually just kind of follow your hunch, your gut. And, we're not doing anything like when I add in black or something like that, one extra color, I'm not going like that, like blindfolded, and I'm just going like this, and it happens in like 5 seconds where it's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. It gets added in kind of nice and gradually. By the way, there's that one in the foreground like that. But just add it in, or a color or something like that. And if we go overboard and we just add too much, usually it's not something where it's like, oh my God, I just ruined the entire piece. It's like maybe, something got too extreme in a corner of our card or something like that, wherever it was applied or something like that. But it's not going to throw off the balance of everything. Or if it does throw off the balance, then you just add something to the other side to even it out. Or if you don't like an object in there, then, I don't know, stamp something over it. Or you take this and, oh my God, I dropped the stamp here. And you just, you cut this right here and it's, now it's a bookmark. But yeah, I don't know, just go for it, just always test things out. And what I always tell people too is if you don't go kind of past maybe sometimes where you think you should have went, at least you'll know, rather than always kind of putting on the brakes and then never knowing, what the maximum, whatever resolution would look like, with something. Or I don't know, sometimes I'm, joking around. I just say, well, what's, the worst that can happen, besides, utter devastation, if you don't like a bird that you stamped in, a card. Okay, so these are going like this, and I'll go over here with the smaller one in the distance. Usually higher represents more, a more distant object in Western perspective, like that. I'll add a little bit of shadow underneath that too, okay? All right, let's see. Oh, here, let me do this other one first. This guy is a little bit... I'm going to go pretty big on this one. We'll go with the big organ pipe. Just because this is like real rectangular right here, and you got 1, 2, 3, stars like that. So let's break this up a little bit and let's change the balance, visual balance of this slightly, or the repetition, I guess. Where's the barrel cactus stamp, Laura? I don't have barrel cactus yet. My favorite plant, by the way, is the red barrel cactus. I love the color of them. There's this color out in nature. It's almost like that right there, somewhere like right in there. It's like this plastic, waxy looking reddish magenta color, and it's the same color that I see in there's this plant in the mountains called a snow plant, but it has these waxy leaves. But I'd see those red barrel cactus, hiking around somewhere, and here's this red barrel cactus just out in the up this slope somewhere, and without another one like within sight anywhere. And so they're just kind of in kind of the strangest places sometimes. Sometimes it's like a whole bunch of them, but I don't know. I'd see them around like on their own, which I don't know. I kind of thought was cool. And oftentimes, maybe it's because I was hiking by myself a lot of times on these remote areas. So I found like a kinship with them. I was watching a video on watching how these bighorn sheep eat those barrel cacti. They ram their like horn into it, past the needles, and they can kind of start, eating away at it at the inside, the soft interior. Hello, Verna. Okay, so Laura, you're around 3,000 feet, huh? That's perfect. I got to get out. I got to get out to the desert. I was thinking about getting out to Joshua Tree this break. Usually my son is working like every day during like school breaks because they have camps running at his gym that he works at. But I was thinking about seeing if he wanted to go out to somewhere with it, he and his friends. Okay, so I'm going to anchor some of these down here. Actually, I'm going to use my little rock stamp, my tiny rock stamp here. For my like shading tool. Okay, so see those little pebbles down there for that textural form. And I can put something in here too. Oh, maybe I should have left room in here. I'll see if I have room for something. Okay, let's see. By the way, if Laura saw a barrel cacti, then it's a barrel cacti, That's what I always tell people, if they see something, and I don't know, she should know. Okay, filling in some of this area right in here. Okay, let me see. Let me zoom in a little bit. But I want to do some other cacti. One of the cacti that's I don't know, close to my heart, so to speak. I don't know, not close to my heart, but I don't know, that I've seen a lot is the silver cholla cacti. Man, that stuff, you got to be really careful walking around that stuff, because that stuff has these needles that, I never got one like in my skin or anything like that, but man, I've like walked into one of those and it went into my shoe like a 1/4 inch, that needle did. Like into the rubber, so it just comes to show you if you got stuck with one of those. And I think I've been out hiking with some of my friends that have always got whatever, stabbed or whatever. I don't know if it was the silver cholla. One of them I know got this yucca in their shin one time. You always got to watch where you're walking out in the desert. Just like if you're walking on the beach, next to the water, you always got to keep your eye out in the waves. In the desert, when you're walking around, you always got to watch where you're going to be walking and where your steps are going to be. All right, so there's my textural forms. See how this little rock right here, it kind of brings everything together a little bit more from a textural standpoint. Right here, I did it kind of horizontal right here, but I thought, oh, it needs to be at an angle, so I stamped it down this way. Okay. And then we have this right here. Okay. I'm going to use my reed stamp here, I think in the foreground too, just to push depth a little bit more. Camping in Victorville, the desert, and it snowed. Oh, yeah, Victorville. Victorville's up at what, is that 4,000 feet? I know on is it the Cajon Pass up there? It's snowed in there a lot of times with people coming to and from like Vegas at times. And that's really caused a bit of a dangerous scenario. Okay, there's my reeds right here. I'm just going to create a little bit more depth there. Depth and texture. Okay. You almost can't see it in that lower left area. Right. And I was going to teach this one person that's taken a private class from me. She wanted to know how someone got their super intense colors. Deanna Tubb, Cedillo, her pieces, but she has the Marvy inks and the glossy cardstock. So I was going to take her through, and then this person that's taken the class. I mean, it's all on this channel too, like the first, I don't know, whatever, like 1,000 videos on how to do that. But I'm gonna walk her through getting these super intense saturations like this. But what it's about, though, see, people see these darker tones like this, so they move into those darker tones, and they go through the lighter tones too fast. But it's all those lighter tones that are underneath here. Even that yellow and orange is underneath that, and that's what's giving it that super glowy type of look to it, okay? So the thing is to, if you're doing these things, to not kind of rush that process, and you'll get, you'll build up and achieve these types of saturations. Now, a lot of times, with different types of inks that aren't quite so saturated and intense as like a Marvy ink, but I use the Ranger on here too. Just go back in, this will set up and dry even after this all dries right here in the foreground too. If it looks dull to you, go back in with like a yellow and apply it right over the top of what you already have. And then before it completely dries, spray seal it, and you'll get a pretty, good intense saturation or saturated look to it. All right, I'm thinking I'm going to add this character in here if I have room. All right, so a little anchor point right there. On here, I don't know, I could put like a little, maybe I will here. Not that it matters, you can do these little creatures whenever, but You know, the little scorpion's, you know, a nocturnal animal, right, for the most part. Some people go out with like a black light or something like that and shine it, and certain desert creatures kind of, I don't know, what is it called? They phosphoresce or something like that. I'm going to just put this little scorpion in the shadows, which I never do with kind of little creatures or something like that. They're usually out kind of in the spotlight. I'm going to put that little creature right down in there. A little subtle little detail type of thing. All right, so super bright tones like this, you know, those are a crowd favorite too. You know, if you post these up, you know, or something like that, everyone likes like deep saturated tones or something like that. You know, I've been doing stuff with kind of more of a duller look, not duller in terms of kind of visual interest, but duller in terms of intensity. You know, with, you know, antique papers and wood grain papers and stuff like that. Or something like this. I mean, it's just, you know, this is like the opposite type of look, you know what I mean, to something like this. But I don't know, these tend to get, you know, a nice response from, you know, if you're sending it to, you know, someone. Okay, so anyways, let me put on some final touches here. So like in this one right here, I didn't get too much variation, like none. With my splatter painting, it's like all the same kind of dot up here or star. So let me add a little bit of something in here. Let me see here. Did I say hello to Verna? Are growing. Doc Martin is done. Oh, Doc Martin. I was gonna say, Bill, if you're going to watch PBS and like whatever, painting with Pascali, remember that guy on PBS? I don't know if you guys got that one. Then, you know, you might as well just watch this. Okay, let me see here. A few more like variations of stars up here. I would go back in and add a little bit of mist, but that black ink for my imagery is just too wet right now. So I'm not going to do that. And I don't want to heat set. I'm kind of convinced that heat setting sometimes it might dull things out a little bit. Now, if I spray seal it, will it bring it back? I don't know. But I think if I spray seal these things, you know, before they dry, I tend to think it looks a little bit more intense. Okay. Let's put some of these right on down to the horizon. Yeah, but I would add in like a little bit of like a softening of some areas in here, or put like a little bit of mist or something like that down here, and I think that would be cool. I don't know, maybe we wouldn't have mist down the desert, it's too arid. You know, you can put some like in the like clouds right there for a slightly softer look. But I don't want to take the chance of like taking a cotton ball and dabbing it right there, and then have that freshly stamped image like blurring out, you know, like smearing. Okay. And right in here, I would do it around some of these lightning bolts to make them glow a little bit more. Okay, but here, let's see. Let's add in, oh, okay, so on this one right here, I'm going to add in these little sparkly little bits, you know, like, you know, in that brief moment of like a lightning strike, how everything comes alive. So I'm going to put a lot of this reflected light on these objects down here, okay? So like on the top sides of some of these rocks. I was trying to, you know, add too much in the darker areas. Okay. But see, this is in a light area, so I can illuminate it more. Like right here, this rock right here. So I'm putting more of that white ink in on that, on some of these grasses right here, or on the dirt. All right, so a little bit of illumination here. I'll put some on the edge on some of these Joshua tree forms. It would probably be much more striking, you know, with that lightning like that. But I don't want it to be too distracting, you know, because I want the attention still to be on that, you know, the lightning, the bolts. Okay, see that on those different objects in there, reflecting that light like that. And okay, I need like a quote stamp up here, I think. That'd be kind of cool. I think I would put it on like something, I would stamp it out on a separate piece of paper and then mat it with whatever I end up matting around here. I think the matting for this one would be, for these, all of these would be a little bit of like just a thin thing of white. I like to do that thin thing of white if I've retained a little bit of white, and then plus it'll bring out like the star textures. So I think for me it's going to be the gold, or I have a piece of the red metallic cardstock that's really inexpensive, so I don't feel like bad. These days I used to kind of mat off these things with like a metallic Star Dream. Star Dream's too expensive for that now, you know? So these gold like that would look kind of cool. So I think this would look good in the gold like this. So I'll get these formatted, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to use some spray adhesive on the back of these, and I'll spray these probably with a Krylon. I'm probably going to use my triple thick on these ones, you know, to get them like super glossy. But anyways, okay, so got the first kind of taste of some of these, I don't know what time of day these are. Like twilight at, you know, and it's supposed to be nighttime, but it looks more like twilight colors or something like that. But I wanted to see it with these kind of like jeweled tones, these scenes, these images, and I see them being, I don't know, those desert types of scenarios like that. You can do like a daytime scene too, but I think they're really fun, kind of in all these different kind of jewel tone color scenarios, you know, with the purples or something like that would be kind of interesting. Blues or something like that. So you can do them in, you know, a couple of people have mentioned snow too, you know, and that would be kind of cool to put, you know, a snowy scenario with these types of images. I'm thinking about that now. I'll have to do that sometime, I guess, while it's still winter. But a lot of testing to do on these going forward. Let's see. Anyone know what that little sound effect in the background of these videos? Do you hear some tapping? I don't know. Do I have my volume turned all the way off? Or were you guys getting some echo on these live videos? I had my speaker on. I just noticed. So sometimes when someone posts something in the chat, you might be getting that tapping or that motion or that sound in the background. I forgot I had that on. Yeah, that's probably what you were hearing. You're hearing the post. So I have that. So when someone posts something, it's played on the speaker here, and it's getting picked up in the microphone. I'm glad someone said that. Oh, so the cacti. So this one was the Joshua tree, and this one was the organ pipe cacti or cactus right here. Yeah. So the red barrel cactus has red spines. It's the whole thing. It's really cool looking. To me, they were like super cute because often I'd see, I'd see big ones sometimes, but oftentimes they're a lot like that big, you know. They just look like something from space or something like that. Glad you like it, Jeannie. Yeah, can't wait to see what everyone does with these ones right here. The jumping cholla. There's a really cool cactus that I like looking at though out in nature is the teddy bear cholla. They look like these little furry balls. Of course, they're not, but it looks like it. But those ones are always really cool. I don't think I'm gonna make one of those in a design because it would be, you know, it's like a light color against. I would have to have it in front of something with something darker in the background, as that one right there. Everything in Arizona wants to hurt you. Yeah, those arid types of terrains in general, huh? Like the Australian, like the interior there and stuff like that. Never been able to desert going. Have to look up a lot of photos. Yeah, these days, Bonnie, with well, all types of areas. You used to have to kind of just. You used to kind of have to. When I was doing a lot of hiking, the internet was out there, of course, but you didn't have all these reports like the wildflower watch, where everyone was just posting, okay, there's wildflowers in this canyon right now, or something like this that are happening right now, or okay, those things, what was up there like last week is gone now, or something like that. But you can get like reports, like live reports all the time, like on desert blooms in specific locations too. Like the big desert here is Anza-Borrego, that's known for wildflowers. But when there's a super bloom, like so many people are going out to like Death Valley, especially, and Anza-Borrego. I've never caught Anza-Borrego though. No, I caught it once where it was like really insane. But I don't know a lot of the areas out there. But Joshua Tree, I've had mediocre. But the cacti bloom, I caught that like in Joshua Tree, and it was spectacular. All right, Patty, good to see you. Thanks for joining in there. We get mist at the base of the mountains across the valley from us, but in the morning. I love the deserts and the visuals out there. I mean, I hiked in higher elevations and pine forests, and that's where I would go during the summer times. But my favorite places to hike and camp were always the deserts, and I don't know. I just love the visuals out there, and it's the panoramas too. When I'm out in pine forest, I'm surrounded by like super tall trees, so unless you have some sort of vista or something like that. But I don't know. When I go out, I love hiking it of all types. But when I come back from like a weekend in the desert or something like that, I feel different for some reason. It's almost like, it's almost like, going on a hike in a desert for me is like hiking and exhilarating and stuff like that. We often did scrambling up areas, but it's almost like a combination of meditation or something like that too, that I don't get like in the like pine forest areas, which is different. I love those as well, but I don't know. Love the deserts. But anyways, glad that I have some desert imagery to work with finally, and finally got around to doing it. But yeah, they evoke, kind of different types of scenarios just using them this way. So I want to see them done in different color schemes and things like that. I just stuck with one just to make this go a little bit faster here, but I want to see them in like purple nighttime types of things with, you know, like even more stars visible or something like that. You know, we can do more with the splatter painting, and I can use like different colored pens like this too. By the way, like adding like some aqua blue stars up here would be really cool in these pens just to contrast against these colors right here a little bit. I won't use it in this one, but like up in here. And it would be something that's really subtle too. Or you can put a little slight tinge of like a light blue right there and then have it reflected down here. Not with this pen, but with like a, you know, like this color ink right here. You know, real like a powder baby blue. Or you can take like a super pale alcohol pen or something like that that's barely darker than white and just add a little tinge of that up there. And when you do something like that, a little bit of a tinge of a different color out of the color scheme, and then you add it down on the surface right down here, what you're doing is you're reiterating this idea of a light source and reflected light down below, which is this kind of little thing with kind of visual dialogue. Now I don't have too much white right here. That's actually pink right in there, but this is barely a visible blue right here, so I can just add it right in here, but I don't know if you can see this right here. I don't know if you can see that right there, but there's a little tinge of this super pale blue right here, and then I just added it right here. Can you tell the difference between this and right over here? So, I mean, you can make it more apparent. That one's like super, super subtle, but those are little fun things to do for these kind of more, you know, I don't know, I guess they're monochrome kind of backgrounds like this. And playing around, you know, just tweaking the color scheme a little bit too. And that little bit of blue is a little bit of a cooler blue, where these are just mostly neutral to warm tones like that. And here you can add a little slight tinge of like cool in there, so you can expand your temperature range of your scene just in a very subtle way. You can have some cool color in there, which is fun to do. Anyway, so if anyone has any questions, if you try this here and you're, you know, going as, if these dry out on you too, they might look like fantastic, but a lot of other brands, they dry dull, okay? Go back in and just, this is pre-sealing though, okay? And add back, you know, some of those largest tones, brighten it up again, like I said, and then spray seal it, if you know, or something like that. Or you can add in, you know, some markers or something like that and go over it with like a pale yellow in the darker areas or something like that too. So you can add in alcohol over the top of it as well. And that's pretty fun to do. In fact, I think that's what I would do in here if I was adding in some additional shadows, which, you know, these scenes could use a little bit, but it's just too wet for me to do it right now still. So you can play around with like different types of media like that and layer your pieces with different types of binder things. Go from, you know, a water-based to an alcohol-based or something like that, and that would work really well. I need like a one of those cow skulls in my next set of desert imagery. You know, those you know, with horns on it or something like that, and that would be perfect right in here. Or for the next Halloween scene, you know, it'd be I don't know, bones or something like that. All right, yeah, teddy bear choya is one of the most dangerous. You mean if you touch it or something like that? Deserts, mountains, beach. That's it, Tandy. I always say someone could be surfing in the morning and skiing in the afternoon if they wanted to, like in Southern California. Oh yeah, The coyote, I have a coyote in that canine set. I forgot about that. Yeah. I see a lot of coyotes out there in Joshua Tree. I think people were feeding them years and years ago. They'd be all like next to the road. And I think, I don't know, the parks might have gotten rid of them or something like that. It occurred to me. I never fed them, but I was thinking too many tourists, going through there. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining in on this impromptu live. We've got two half-page scenes and a quarter page right here. So, yeah. The spines of the teddy bear will go through anything, even heavy gloves. Okay. I never got near them, but I love the look of those teddy bear cactus. Look up teddy bear cactus if you guys haven't seen those before. Like, they look like little stuffies or something like that. They look like really soft and cute. But as Laura said, they can kill you. Thanks, Barbara Joe. Happy New Year to you too. Thanks, Bonnie. Stamps are heading out to everyone that got those. Can't wait to see what you guys do with them. Start taking photos of sunset skies or something like that and print them out, for a really fast, types of desert scenarios, and photo stamping would be really cool. So I need to do that myself. All right, everyone. Hope to see you on the next live. Thanks, Jen.